Hello and welcome once again to the Dr. Zeero Xiron Free Magic Secret Show, where we investigate all forms of magic. And now this show, it encompasses magic throughout all world history. And we like to focus on different magic techniques and things of mind power and different natures. And Doc Zeero is a person who has been reading every book out there possibly connected to the occult and the ancient grimoires and the ancient magic and all the wonderful things. Now, every single possible little avenue of magic in so many world histories has Dr. Zeero slithered his way through, learning everything possible. And naturally, you go through a ton of books. Now, what I have now in my possession that I'm going to describe to you is my actual reference library. See, with my collection, I did a video just previous to this one called Magic Brains, and it's about how your one central backpack is where you keep the best of the best of your books as an operative magician and what you actually need and the tightest stuff that you possibly can have, that if all had to go, it was just this one backpack of stuff that you could carry on with. So I described to you all every single thing that I had in my backpack, of course. So what I have now is what I have left over after years and years and years of study, which I felt is basically, the long story short of it is that anybody listening, if you just want to cut to the chase and you want to really, really nail your pathway, just write down every single thing I'm going to suggest to you and get your hands on it, because everything I have is for a very specific reason. And like I said, I've gone through tons and tons and tons of stuff, and I've sold a lot of stuff off. I've given even more out, or, that's usually what happens. I sell it back for what I paid for it, or I give it out for free to whoever needs it. And I believe in paying it forward as much as possible when it comes to books of magic, because all it takes is one little seed to grow. All it takes is that one right book in the right person's hands, and you're going to start off their magical path. And it's very important. It's like having an arsenal. Understand that every magic book, every single tome, it's a magical weapon in and of itself. It's got its own function. So anyway, we're talking about the library of Dr. Zeero. So I have two really big of those Rubbermaid tubs, the big blue ones. And they're filled to the brim with the best of the best of the best that I could compact. And there's a lot of other stuff that I would have held on to had I had the room. But this is just enough for what I'm going to describe to you. So once again, all you smarty pants kids out there, do grab a piece of paper and a pen and write these down manually. So I'm just going to jump right into it. First things first, if you're going to study witchcraft, you have to know about gardening, and you have to know about the flora surrounding you and the natural world. And where I'm at, I'm on the West Coast. So what works best for me is the Sunset Western Garden Book, completely revised and updated. I don't know what year it's from, but it's full color guide to the biosphere in which I exist. I highly recommend that. Now, next up, it should be, without having to state it, Webster's Pocket Thesaurus. And I also have how to teach yourself Spanish vocabulary so you can learn how to speak Spanish, because that's important stuff right there. Next up, and these books aren't put in any specific order, just how it fits in this box I have. And again, this is just box one that I'm going through right now. It's a book about a complete guide to growing vegetables. Important to have, because Doc thought he had a bit of a green thumb there, and then COVID happened and kind of fucked up all those plans of starting a garden. So next we have Solitary Witch. by Raven Wolf. This is a one-stop shopping, everything you need right at your fingertips tome of witchcraft. It's a super grimoire. It's got every single possible thing you'd want to know about witchcraft. Every little doodad is at least touched upon and mentioned. I can't recommend it enough, even though she's put out a lot of like teeny bopper witchcraft stuff in the past. Next up, Celtic Mandalas by Courtney Davis. And it's just a book of really cool mandalas. Just letting you know, I've never seen it anywhere else. I just saw it on the shelf once used and I picked it up. This one isn't necessarily a Magic book, but comics are Magic too, don't forget. And I have a deluxe edition of Tales from the Crypt, Volume 1 of Tales from the Crypt that Dark Horse put out, and it's the original like 5 Tales from the Crypt comics. But they recolored them digitally, and they don't look as cool as like the Gladstone reprints that came out in the early 90s. But just wanted to say, Tales from the Crypt is dope because the reason comics are as they are today. In the 1950s, there was a psychiatrist guy or a doctor, I forget. He printed a book called Seduction of the Innocent, and it was like detailing how like comics were driving kids to juvenile delinquency and destroying their minds, and it was reprehensible. And Tales from the Crypt was the mascot of why comics needed to be banned in the 1950s, and parents burned these things in public en masse. And then they instituted the Comics Code Authority, which really like made comics just for kids. And that's why the goofy DC 1960s exist. And then, they lightened it up a bit in the 70s. And then by the 80s, DC dumped it with Swamp Thing. They got away from it. They kept lessening in the rules, etc. But this is not a time to go on that. But that's why Tales from the Crypt is dope. It's like reading something banned from the past. Let's see. Next up is... Oh, you know them and love them. Hold on one second. La-di-da-dee-dee-dee. The Mysteries of the Unknown series that I believe it was Time Life Books put out in the late 80s. And I got one for Cosmic Duality. And I think I got the one on witchcraft as well. I've had a bunch of them all different times. One second. Next up, we have a book. It's a hardcover. It's called Witches by Colin Wilson. It's an art book that's absolutely awesome. I have the version that has the witches, the pilgrims hanging the witches. That one, I guess, is more rare. And then most importantly, we have America's #1 guide to natural health. It's called Prescription for Nutritional Healing, 3rd edition. A practical A to Z reference to drug-free remedies using vitamins, minerals, herbs, and food supplements by Phyllis A. Balch, B-A-L-C-H. Now this thing, it's not, a witchy book, but it's like if you're into druidry and plant magic and wart cunning and classic witchcraft that deals with nature, this is like the ultimate book. This makes you a wizard of the forest. And I can't even tell you how awesome it is. The version I have, I think, is from maybe like 94 or something. And I also have, sticking in here randomly, Creepy Magazine, number 58, the special Halloween horror issue, December 1973, featuring sorcerers, demons, and vampires run rampant and change into something comfortable. I recommend that one. It's not required, but it's a good one. Okay, now I have some personal artifacts. So I'll just say there is some room that's being used for personal artifacts. I got a really dope runes set and this awesome tarot deck shoved in here because I had room. It's called Tarot Nuages, Nuages. And that's where it's like all based on this weird like fantasy town this guy did. And they look very medieval and strange. And in one of the suits is penguins. Another suit is mushrooms. Another set is goblins. And I'm not sure what else. But it's basically like a goblinized tarot deck. So that one's really cool. So down here, la-di-da-dee-dee, at the bottom I have Gardening for Dummies for an idiot like myself. It's right to the point, everything you need. This one is called Magick, Shamanism, and Taoism. And it's by author named Herne, H-E-R-N-E. This teaches you how the hexagrams work, which is basically like kind of like Chinese tarot divination kind of system. It's like an ancient divination system. It's like Chinese runes or something based on this really epic stuff. But everything you want to know about Chinese magic, this book will knock your socks off. I also have Druid Magic, The Practice of Celtic Wisdom by Maya McGee Sutton and Nicholas R. Mann, M-A-N-N. You know, it'll tell you a lot about the Druids, but there's only so much we know historically, so it isn't like a truly like historical sort of like Druid book. It just, you know, it feels like something like Scott Cunningham would write. You know what I mean? It's fluffy, but romantic. It's a fun one to read, of course. It's an important one. The next one is absolutely dope. It's called The Key of It All, an encyclopedic guide to the sacred languages and magical systems of the world. This is book 1, The Eastern Mysteries, by David Allen Hulse, H-U-L-S-E. And this breaks down like the number magic and the symbolism behind all the magical ancient languages and such. So it's really like it's a must-have for magicians if you want to go on so many different levels. Okay, next up is what is this? Complete Idiot's Guide to Alchemy. Another very important one because it breaks down the whole of alchemy in the entire tradition in the most simplest format you could possibly ever think. Now we're going to move on to the regular old books. And this is where it's going to get. I'm going to have to shout from over here. Hopefully you can hear me just as well. I'm going to scooch over here. So, also, got a couple. Now, all my books, they all have like comic book plastics on them. Because if you're going to buy a comic book for 50 cents and put a backboard plastic on it, why wouldn't you do it for a book that you paid 20 bucks for? This is why my thing has lasted so long. So like this Rubbermaid container, plus using comic book plastics or giant Ziploc bags work as well. You know, it's going to make your stuff last forever, especially if you have to store it in a garage or store it down in a moldy basement or something. Remember that. So, Homage to Pythagoras, Rediscovering Sacred Science. And it's a cumulative effort from a bunch of different authors. I'll throw a couple of them out there because if so, you can find it. Christopher Bamford, B-A-M-F-O-R-D. Keith Critchlow, C-R-I-T-C-H-L-O-W. Robert Lawler, L-A-W-L-O-R, and many others. Then there's also this book. It's like it's as deep druidic as you can kind of get. So there was a guy named Talesian, and he was a bard in the British Isles. I think it was in like the 400s. But he left behind this writing or whatever is, however you want to describe it. So it's called Talesian, T-A-L-I-E-S-I-N. Talesian, The Last Celtic Shaman by John Matthews, with additional material by Kate and Lynn Matthews. So John Matthews has done a bunch of cool books on Celtic themes. That one's, if you're deep into like the Celtic stuff, you absolutely have to check that book out. Without a doubt, you will read all about it. So next up, the Apophenion, A Chaos Magic Paradigm by Peter J. Carroll. And it's about a whole new paradigm of wacky chaos magic thought. What can I say? It's all about, I don't want to ruin it for you because I don't even really know how to explain it correctly. You just got to find it. It's a great one. So there's a thing called neuro-linguistic programming. And it's about when you take in language and how you can brainwash someone, basically, for good or ill. And that comes from a book called The Structure of Magic, a book about language and therapy by Richard Bandler and John Grinder. And it's a 2-volume set. I got both of them. Queer Kabbalah, Non-Binary, Gender Fluid, Omnisexual Mysticism and Magic by Enfys J. Book. That one's another dope one. Also, The Kybalion by the Three Initiates, a classic of Hermetic literature. Newer book, it's called The Poison Path Herbal, Baneful Herbs, Medicinal Nightshades, and Ritual Entheogens by Kobe Michael. And it's all about, again, plant magic and baneful herbs. And, you want to be a wart hunter, this is where you got to go. And there's a book on the Green Man called Walking with the Green Man, Father of the Forest Spirit of Nature by Dr. Bob Curran, Curran. So if you want to know about the Green Man, that's a pretty good one to start with, in my opinion. Next up, Isaac Bonewitz, Real Magic. A lot of people dismiss him because he got in trouble. There was a girl that accused him of lessening the mo. And whether true or not, it ruined his career long after he was dead. He is one of the guys who started the ADF Druids, which is a very important group, modern Druidry. Anyway, he wrote that book, and it was a pretty awesome one. And it just talks about magic techniques and what could be real and constitute as real magic. And he takes like real magic and avoids the hocus pocus. And it's hung around all these years because it's a good read. So that one. The Rough Guide to California. Oh, my maps to California. The Practical Kabbalah, a guide to Jewish wisdom for everyday life by Rabbi Label Wolf. That's like how Jewish magic works. It's a Jewish magic book, very important. Magic and Mystery in Tibet by Alexandra David Neal. And that is all about this woman's journey through Tibet, dealing with lamas and magicians and sorcerers and learning their methods and asking them questions. It should be more well known than it is. Then also, Magical Kabbalah, Kabbalah with a Q, Magical Kabbalah for Beginners, a comprehensive guide to occult knowledge by Frater Barabas, Barrabbas. And that's like everything you want to know about the Tree of Life and the Cliff Off. It's all right there in one handy, rad edition, you could say. So next up is a stack of smaller books. First is A Garden of Pomegranates by Ezrael Regardi. Once again, another classic on the Tree of Life and about how that operates and about all the paths on the Tree of Life and such. The Druidry Handbook by John Michael Greer tells you all about Druids. Astrological Signatures by C.C. Zane. It's his book about why astrology is relevant and should make sense to you and why you should care. And finally, Iamblichus's Life of Pythagoras. If you want to know about Pythagoras, that's the place to go. Okay, next up is Phases of the Moon, a guide to evolving human nature by Marilyn Bustede, Busteed, and Richard Tiffany. And it's basically like about astrology and the phases of the moon throughout the year and how they deal with human psychology. And another book called The Greek Kabbalah, spelled with a Q, and it's about how these number magic ideas formulated with the Greeks, and about how different origins of the Kabbalah in an earlier period of time. Not a totally essential book, but an interesting one, regardless. So I can't say no as far as checking that one out. The Complete Book of Incense, Oils, and Brews by Scott Cunningham, the old school original edition. worth checking out. It's good. You know, is what it is. Next up, Hecate, Goddess of Witches by Courtney Weber, Weber. So if you want to make Hecate your imaginary friend, this is where you want to start. It's a really good one as far as that's concerned. The Chaos Protocols, Magical Techniques for Navigating the New Economic Reality by Gordon White. And this is about how you use chaos magic to defeat capitalism. Shamans, Healers, and Medicine Men by Holger Kalweit, Kalweit. If you want to know about shamans, that's the place to go. Techniques of Self-Defense, Stick Fighting by Masaaki Hatsumi. It's a ninja grandmaster, and he teaches you how to fight with a stick in that book. There's no mess around when it comes to spooky Hatsumi. That's what they call him. So the last ones in this box are the Druid Source Book, compiled and edited by John Matthews. And it's like everything you want to know about modern Druidry and that whole racket. So Iamblichus, the philosopher, he did that book on Pythagoras that's well known, but he also, his second biggest work probably is called On the Mysteries of the Egyptians, Chaldeans, and Assyrians. And this is from, I believe, 400-ish, 400 AD. And it's like a last defense of paganism, or like philosophically trying to keep paganism alive when it was dying. And it's like a final death knell. And it's studied by people because it gives us tons of insights into this old paganism of like ancient Greece. And it illuminates a lot of things about it. So if you're interested in that standpoint, you absolutely have to check that book out. And then finally, lastly, I got The Alchemist Handbook by Frater Albertus. Tells you everything you want to know about alchemy. Another classic. It's still alive today, of course. So let's see. Dr. Zeero is going to go pull out his other box of awesome stuff, and then you can learn all about that momentarily. Okay, now I'm in the next box, and I hope you have your pens and pencils and writing utensils still going. So anyway, if I still got your attention at this point, I have The Celtic Golden Dawn by John Michael Greer, and that's all about the notes of W.B. Yeats, and who envisioned Celtic magic as if in the Golden Dawn tradition. And it's an awesome one. Next up, Thrice Greatest Hermes by Mead. It's the collected edition of all of the Hermetic texts. And that was a huge epic book right there. The Magick in Food, Legends, Lore, and Spellwork by Scott Cunningham. I've got the original version of it here. A Mass Conspiracy to Feed People by David Border Giles, Giles, and it's about food, not bombs. You should learn about food, not bombs. It's an important thing. Definitely, forever and ever. Weird Craft by McKernan, and it's all about those who spin the fates in the Norwegian tradition. So next we have the Overlook Martial Arts Reader, Classic Writings on Philosophy and Technique, but edited by Randy F. Nelson. Highly recommend. Ooh, it's hard to get the books in the places. The Kabbalah Unveiled, translated by S.L. McGregor Mathers. It's a very important bedrock book on that subject. Let's Go Travel Guide Hawaii. Can't go wrong with that. Martial Arts Reader. No, we'll go further up here. Witch's Bible, a complete witch's handbook by Janet and Stuart Farrar. That is a classic if there ever was a classic. Jewish Meditation by Arya Kaplan. The Kabbalah A Definitive History of the Evolution, Ideas, Leading Figures, and Extraordinary Influence of Jewish Mysticism by Gershom Scholem, Scholem. He was very important to the study of such books, and he did a lot for the field. Hine's Varieties, Chaos and Beyond by Phil Hine. He wrote a bunch of really excellent books on chaos magic. The Psilocybin Chef Cookbook teaches you how to make mushroom delicacies. Okay, so let's see. Underneath here, I've got some books of a special nature, which I have the Teaching of Buddha. Oh, these are some other ones. Some random personal items. The 3 Books of Occult Philosophy by Henry Cornelius Agrippa. You absolutely need that one in your life, without question. Oh, there we go. Next up, The U by Fred Hageneater. It's a full-color book about the yew tree. And if you don't know about that, you should go on the Internet Archive, look up yew magic or occult in the yew, witchcraft in the yew tree. There's a document that's 888 pages long you should take a look at. Oh, show. Ooh, what's this one? Mind of the Ninja, Exploring the Inner Power by Kirtland C. Peterson. And that will tell you everything about being a ninja. And that was very important for me because when COVID hit the fan and I was left to my own devices, not sure what would happen next, that book was kind of just sitting right in my field of vision. The Hermetic Kabbalah by Dr. Paul A. Clark. Kabbalah with a Q, of course. The Tree of Life by Israel Regardie. I have the non-illustrated edition because the illustrated edition would take a gazillion years to... Tough to fit. It's a big one. This one... off. Uh-oh. I think the Teaching of Buddha's got to go. I don't think there's room for it anymore. That's the pitfalls of this book collection. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, Buddha. I think you lost your place. The Key of All Mysteries by Eliphas Levi. Occultism Unveiled, The Great Secret by Eliphas Levi, and Kingdom of the Sanctum Regnum by Levi as well. So, let's get into some of the big ones. These ones are personal effects. Personal books. This one's an important one. The Bardic Source Book. Inspirational Legacy and Teachings of the Ancient Celts edited by John Matthews. So that is an excellent subject to study. Well, these bigger ones are going to have to go on later. Guys, I'm getting... Okay. Scottish Witchcraft, The History of Magic of the Picts by Raymond Volkland. Amulets and Talisman by E.A. Wallace Budge. Recipes for Disaster, an Anarchist Cookbook by Crime Thing. Good old ones to have. Oh, Buddha, I don't think you're going to make the cut. Queering Your Craft by Cassandra Snow. It tells you how to make your witchcraft very, very gay. You want to freak them out. You want to get gay. It's where to go. Cunningham's Encyclopedia of Magical Herbs and Wicca, A Guide for the Solitary Practitioner by Scott Cunningham. All old school classics. Kabbalistic Magic with a Q by Shlomo Baal Shem. And this is a huge, important manual of Jewish magic. It'll blow your mind, blow your head off. The Picatrix, translated by Dana Trell. I have a book about first aid. It's a old army manual. I got a series of books, Ancient Egyptian Magic by Bob Brier, B-R-I-E-R. Thoth, The Hermes of Egypt, a study of some aspects of theological thought in ancient Egypt by Patrick Boylan, B-O-Y-L-A-N. And Thoth, Architect of the Universe by Ralph Ellis. Talking about how Thoth might be an alien or a transdimensional being or something. So I don't know about all that, but think what you will. Next up, some of the smaller ones I have. The Philosophy of Aristotle, At the Mountains of Madness, H.P. Lovecraft edition. Peter Pan, the original Peter Pan by J.M. Barrie. And Northern Magic, Mysteries of the Norse, Germans, and English by Edred Thorson, Thorson. It's a fun one. Now some big boys. I have The Doctrine and Ritual of High Magic by Eliphas Levi. What was this? That's that hard book. Doody doo wop wop. I also have Celtic Wisdom by John Matthews. And the last few that I have here are The Druids by Peter Ellis, which is like, if you want to learn about the Druids, it's the go-to guide. The Way of Tarot, The Spiritual Teacher in the Cards by Alejandro Jodorowsky, the director, which you should know about. And finally, we have the Picatrix once again, which never find a home. So that is, in a nutshell, the library, which Dr. Zeero absolutely recommends you get your hands on. There's no reason why not to. And, thanks for listening to the Dr. Zeero Free Magic Secrets Show. That wraps up this segment. I hope you got something out of it. If you write them all down and read them all, your life will be substantially better. So that much said, hit the subscribe button. Let people know I exist. All that good stuff. Yakety smackety. And as always, hail Arkham, and here is your hot rockin' outro. I will see you guys on the flip. Later.
On a train bound for nowhere, I met up with the gambler. We were both too tired to sleep, so we took turns staring out the window at the darkness. The boredom overtook us, and he began to speak. He said, "Son, I've made a life out of reading people's faces, knowing what the cards were by the way they held their eyes. So if you don't mind my saying, I can see you're out of aces. For a taste of your whiskey, I'll give you some advice." So I handed him my bottle, and he drank down my last swallow. Then he bummed a cigarette and asked me for a light. And the night got deathly quiet, and his face lost all expression. Said, "If you're gonna play the game, boy, you gotta learn to play it right. You've got to know when to hold when the dealing's done. Every gambler knows that the secret to surviving is knowing what to throw away and knowing what to keep. 'Cause every hand's a winner and every hand's a loser, and the best that you can hope for is to die in your sleep. And when he finished speaking, he turned back toward the window, crushed out his cigarette, faded off to sleep. Somewhere in the darkness, the gambler he broke even. But in his final words, I found an ace that I could keep. You've got to know when to hold 'em, know when to fold 'em, know when to walk away, and know when to run. You never count your money when you're sitting at the table. There'll be time enough for counting when the dealing's done. You've